Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. How you doing? Today is Sunday Comics. I used to say that this was my favorite thing to do. This is now my second favorite thing to do. My favorite thing to do is Two Beards, One Comic with Kelsey. Man, he's just a great guy. It's a lot of fun. For those of you who didn't see, I did almost done with Warlock, the Jim Starlin's Warlock. I did that with Kelsey last night. You can check it out. I need to go through all my playlists and organize them better. So that's something I'll probably be doing today. But anyway, I'm just filibustering, getting some people in here. Let's address the chat. So first off, we got What Geeks Do Network. How you doing? As always, he's the one that made that opening music for me. Thank you so much. I love it to pieces, like Mises. I love Mises to pieces. Let me adjust my light. I swear I'm not as bald as I look on this. It's just the light right on my head shines my forehead. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm in denial. We got Marcus over here, my moderator. Marcus, such a great help, instrumental in looking up information, throwing in links, and helping help me out in general. Thanks a lot, Marcus. You know, you really add value to this. I mean, my channel is worth a penny, so Marcus is probably 3/4 of that 1 penny. As always, I'm drinking Tim Hortons coffee out of my I forgot I had this Star Wars mug. It seems like mugs seem to go into heavy rotation. When I bring it upstairs, put it in the sink, I'll take out another mug, and that'll stay. Not to sound gross, but I tend to clean up the mugs and keep using them because I don't want to go upstairs a lot. That's what my wife lives upstairs. I live down here in the basement. Yes, I'm a basement dweller. And let's talk a plug for my comic. You know, we got Heroic Tales. It's chugging along. We are very close to the second stretch goal. The second stretch goal being $4,000, and then I will unlock another card. I've been remiss in my duty. I got the images all done for all 6 of the cards, and the backs of the cards I got to get them over to Nick to do the graphic arts for the back of the cards. I'm sending Renzo the script for Heroic Tales #2. Well, there's going to be 2 scripts for Heroic Tales #2. There's one story for Mary Sue. Renzo wants to draw that first because he wants to draw sexy women, and then the other script is another patriarch story. And I don't know if I'm going to go overboard like I did for the first issue with ads and variant covers and everything. That made the comic very expensive. So maybe, manage expectations. I'll keep everything as cheap as possible, unless Heroic Tales does, starts booming. I got a couple of big shows lined up. Let's see what happens. Educating CG, one comic fan at a time. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Educating. It's all about comics. That's my hashtag, and I mean it. It's all about comics. It's not about me. It's not about egos. It's not about personalities. I mean, it's about people. It's about comics and comics fans. There you go. I'll keep it like that. And thank you, Marcus. And we got Pops over here. Pops is the personification of madness. He is the Madness Network. He's trying his darndest to get on a Roku channel. Coffee's so good. And then who knows? The sky's the limit from that. So we got 9 people in the chat. I assume everybody can hear me. Everybody can see me. I got this Frankenstein creation going on. I'm pretty proud of it. So I got my webcam on my face, and I got my cell phone on the camera, and I go into the StreamYards, and I mute my camera, and then I hook up my Bluetooth speaker to nullify the I just tried that out on private stream, and it worked, and I don't know. I'm Frankenstein as we go. So let's talk about comics. So again, this is Sunday Comics. For those of you who are new, I see there's 9 people in the chat. Everybody say hello. I tried to take key issues from my collection and talk about them. And why are they key? Why are they important? And why are they fun? So this is Amazing Spider-Man 39. The last Spider-Man I did was Amazing Fantasy 15, which is the first appearance of Spider-Man. And there's you don't need any explanation why that is a key issue. It's the first appearance of Spider-Man. Man, it's one of the few early Marvel comics that I do not own, and it looks like unless I stumble upon one in a garage sale or something, I won't be getting that. That is just super unaffordable. So I have a couple of reprints of it. So that is just great. So those of you, again, focus. Okay, so Amazing Spider-Man was created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Everybody knows Stan Lee, so let's talk a little bit about Steve Ditko. Steve Ditko was the artist who Stan Lee came up with the concept. I think Jack Kirby designed the costume, if I'm correct, Marcus. I'm sure you know better than me. And then Steve Ditko drew the issue. And Steve Ditko was very involved in it, to the point I'd say, like, I don't even know, but a majority of the issues, I think Steve Ditko did most of the plotting, the writing of the story, and the art, and then Stan would just do the dialogue. And it was causing a little bit of problems because Steve was inserting himself into Peter Parker. Peter Parker kind of looked like Steve. Peter Parker started to espouse the same political opinions as Steve. And for those of you who don't know, Steve Ditko was an objectivist, meaning he was very influenced by Ayn Rand. And I'm kind of fascinated by Ayn Rand, however you say her name. I always say Ayn Rand, but people correct me. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. So I'll just say Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand came up with the objectivist philosophy, which has a lot of merit, but it also has a lot of people attacking it based on what other people told them it means. Not a fan of her books. They're really difficult to get through. They're chores. They're chores. And the straw man of objectivism is just selfishness, right-wing selfishness. And of course, that's putting it in an improper nutshell. But Steve started injecting a lot of this into Spider-Man, notably the Prowler. The Prowler represented, not the Prowler, the Plunderer. The Plunderer, Ayn Rand basically said there was like two types of people, producers and plunderers. The producers created everything for society, and the plunderers just took. Steve Ditko created the Plunderer, and he was, and then Stan changed a lot of the dialogue, which just caused an ever-widening rift. And Steve Ditko is very adamant about his beliefs. And I had the let's adjust. I just noticed that there's a lot of comments. Let's adjust them before I go further. Jack Kirby created a Spider-Man costume. It was more like the Flyer with the web. Oh, okay. Again, Zach Tan always comes in, says good morning. Very, very, very pleasant person. Fabrizio Aiello is the creator, artist, the guy of Horace H. Hoover, a comic that I absolutely love. There's only been 2 issues from it. The 3rd issue, I think, is coming soon, and he'll keep us posted. I don't know if Fabrizio is going to do a web store or crowdfund. I'm not sure, but whatever Fabrizio decides to do, I'll help him promote. I just love Horace, to the point that Horace H. Hoover is in Heroic Tales, but he's not in Heroic Tales. Ditko created a costume we see today, which may be taken from a Ben Cooper Spider Hero Halloween. Yes. Marcus, if you could send me a photo reference of that. You're absolutely right. I forgot about that. Do you think Spider-Man's arch enemy is the Green Goblin or Dr. Octopus? Good question. That's for the philosophers to. It is the Green Goblin, in the fact that the Green Goblin became such like a personal, integral part of Peter's personal life, whereas the Dr. Octopus, with the exception of that bizarre he marries Aunt May's story that everybody just forgets about, Dr. Octopus, but then the Superior Spider-Man, I don't know. I like the superior Spider-Man. I know how comic books work. They shake things up and then they go back to the status quo. So all these people are rage quitting. There's a lot of reasons to get mad at Dan Slott. The superior Spider-Man was not one of them. I actually thought that was an interesting twist on a comic. I mean, the guy's been around for Spider-Man's been around for what 60 years. You know, you got to play up with the continuity and the status quo once in a while. Not the continuity. I take that back. Respect the continuity. You play up with the status quo every once in a while. So as I was saying, Steve Ditko put a lot of his personal philosophy into the mouth of Peter Parker, which is something that we kind of like, no, today. But he did it. And Stan was more on the liberal side. Steve was more on the conservative side. And it's not like their politics clashed. Stan was professional enough that he could get along with anybody. It worked. It's just that Steve was putting more and more of his personal politics into the comic. And I think Stan, not that he disagreed with Steve, he just wanted to keep the politics out of the comics themselves. So he lessened Steve's input to the point where I think the issue right before this, there was a protest on the school, and Pete was like, "You damn hippies, you know, look at you protesting, and you don't know what's going on, and you're causing problems." You know, like it was like pretty blatant how I'm trying to sign into Twitter so I can see what Marcus just sent me, and it's of course giving. I did a scan last night and I'm locked out of Twitter. I can't do it. So yeah, you DM me. I'll put that photo on Twitter when I repost this, and I'll put it in the community post. Thanks, Marcus. Everything's a problem. Okay, so and then this issue they course corrected and they made Pete like more pleasant after this, like to the point like Pete was alienating himself from his friends, and I firmly believe. If you read Amazing Fantasy #1, Peter Parker was on his way to becoming a villain. He was the same path as Dr. Octopus. Nobody respects my genius. You don't get me. And then he was given power. And the first thing he does is try to make money off of it. He ignores the criminal. And it wasn't until he realized he indirectly caused the death of his beloved uncle that changed his mind. If Dr. Octopus had the tentacle arms and caused the death of his mother or his uncle and felt guilt, would that have shamed him into becoming a hero? So Pete, Dr. Octopus, to me, that's what makes Dr. Octopus his arch enemy. But then the Green Goblin became Twang, So good question, Zach Tan. Yes, you DM'd me the costume, and I'm logged out of Twitter, and I gotta. I just. Good morning, Yang Zhang Zhao, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. I like being on Yang's channel. He's very thoughtful discussions. Oh yeah, I remember the Spider-Man villain arc. That sounds like an interesting premise for a what if. Is there I wonder if they ever explored that in a what if. That would be, out of all the multiverse nonsense and spider sonas and all that crap. Is there a story about a villain Spider-Man? Yo ho, hail, and happy Mother's Day, everybody. Happy Mother's Day. As sad as this says, but I don't make a big deal of Mother's Day. My mother's passed, and I don't have any children, so my wife and I just call this Sunday, but I got a lot of sisters. I got a lot of sister-in-laws. My nieces are mothers, so I send them all messages, and we avoid the restaurants and everything today because let the mothers enjoy out. So today we'll be finishing a script that I need to send to Renzo by tomorrow, doing the backs of the cards because it looks like the first 2 cards will be unlocked, and then cleaning this. Believe it or not, there's comic books all over the place. I got to sort them and put them away. So that's my Mother's Day, and it looks like it's not that great. Here's an article on the costume. New York. Okay, cool. Check this out. What if Uncle Ben wasn't killed? Then I think that is real interesting because Pete would have been on the way to being a villain and then coming home to Aunt May, who would have been like making him feel bad. That is a real interesting story to write. I wonder if is Marcus Yang, is this story written? That is a real interesting story. I know they did a what if Aunt May died instead of Uncle Ben or something like that, but what if Uncle Ben wasn't killed? Peter would have been a villain, but then would he have eventually gone straight? I like that. That is it. So anyway, why did I pick this comic? Because you don't remember anything like that? I got to look that up. That is a real cool premise for a what if. Okay, so why did I pick Spider-Man 39? It's an odd number. It's a bizarre number. It's not an anniversary or anything. Why I picked this? Because it's the first John Romita Sr. issue. So Steve Ditko and Stan Lee had a falling out, and Stan Lee is a storyteller. He's an embellisher. He's a showman, and he annoyed a lot of people. I love Stan, so my emotions, kind of override my logic, and I give him a huge benefit of the doubt. I know Jack and Stan eventually had a falling out. So, and a lot of people, a lot of the creators, they have less than flattering things to say about Stan Lee. But I love Stan, so I really think that Stan doesn't understand why Steve Ditko left. And Steve just packed up and left, uncompromising. It's not a coincidence that Alan Moore made Rorschach this black and white, no nonsense, no compromise character, because Rorschach is based on The Question, and The Question is a character created by Steve Ditko who is, uncompromising, good versus evil, black versus white, A equals A, B equals B, kind of character. And then Steve Ditko also created Mr. A, which is the ultimate extension of objectivist philosophies made into a superhero. It's to the point where when Mr. A came out, all the college kids who loved Steve Ditko from his previous work on horror comics and then Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, they read Mr. A, they were horrified. Maybe I'll do a showcase on Mr. A one of these days. But anyway, Steve left, and at this time it was unheard of. Spider-Man was a top comic, super profitable comic, stable in an era when people were using pseudonyms and comic companies were being shysters and making it difficult for people to get their pay and all sorts of underhanded things. To get not only consistent work, but to get paid and get paid well, and to be on a top tier comic, that was, you were done. That was it. And then to just leave, nobody could believe it. And Stan, honestly, I believe Stan honestly didn't understand why Steve left. And and John Romita Sr. took over the spot. And how do I know that I believe this? Because here. This is me this is me a couple of years ago. I forget exactly what year, 2015, 2016. I'm at John Romita Sr.'s house. My coworker lived next door. Well, he still lives there. John Romita Sr. sadly passed. Lived next door to John Romita Sr. And one day he just says to me, "Hey, John, do you know who this John Romita Sr. is?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's my next door neighbor. Do you want to meet?" I was like, "Oh my God, yes, of course I want to meet him." So we set up a day. We went to his house, and I spent hours just talking with Romita. And he it's not his first rodeo. He knew the first question was going to be, why did Steve Ditko leave? And he told me he doesn't know. Stan doesn't know. Nobody knows. Nobody understands. Like, he kind of beat around the bush. But he kind of said Steve kind of had mental issues. Now, he didn't say it. Maybe I'm inferring wrong, but that's what I think he was saying without saying. First off, let me say John Romita Sr. was the coolest guy. He was gracious. It didn't seem like that I felt after like hours that like, oh man, I'm taking up too much of his time. So I started making excuses to leave. He was like, "Hey, stay. My wife is cooking and blah, blah, blah." And It was so cool. So the first thing I noticed, I was like, I've been in this house before. How was I in this house before? John Romita used his house as a model for Aunt May's house. So I was like, I've been in this kitchen before. I've been in this living room before, because it was Peter Parker's house. So I'll stop sharing this, and then I'll put this back like that. It was so cool. And he told me inside stories that if the progressives heard these words from Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, they'd cancel Stan and Jack. And so, and you know, he didn't have positive things to say about modern Marvel. He was great. He was great. He was a lot of fun. And I went back and I saw him 2 more times after that. And then that was all before I had a channel. And then once I started my channel, I asked my neighbor if I could come and set up a camera and record. And by the time things started moving, John passed. So there we go. They did do a what if. Pat Broderick. Oh, Pat Broderick. I got to check that out. What if Uncle Ben didn't die? I got to check it out and read it. 17. What if Spider-Man never became a crime fighter, by Peter Gillis, Pat Broderick, and Mike. Oh, cool. I got to check that out. So without further ado, this is Amazing Spider-Man 39. This is, I think, one of the more famous covers in comic book history. It's just so good. It is the first issue of John Romita Sr. taking over. And I don't know about you, but John Romita Sr., when I close my eyes and I think Spider-Man, the image in my head is drawn by John Romita Sr. Just like when I close my eyes and think of the Fantastic Four, it's John Buscema. You know, John Buscema to me was Marvel Comics. So let's open this up. And as you can see, best wishes, John Romita. I got it autographed. That's funny in itself, and I'm being very careful with this. I'm sure you can understand why. When I went to John's house, I brought this comic with me, and he's like, okay, you want an autograph? And he took the comic and let me get it. He took the comic in his hand and he rolled it up like this, and he walked over and he's using his knuckles to help him balance. And I'm like, oh my God. You can't yell at John Romita for wrinkling your comic. And it's funny, when he handed it back to me, I'm like making eye contact with him and I'm inspecting the comic, make sure there's no creases. You know what I mean? You can't, what are you going to do? Get mad, John Romita? So here we have, let's look at these credits. Can you see these credits right here? Script, Stan Lee. Let's see, is it going to focus? Okay. Art by Jazzy John Romita. He wasn't senior at that point because there was no junior. He was just John Romita. Lettering by adorable Artie Simek. No colorist. I'm going to assume it's Stan Goldberg unless Marcus tells me otherwise. And note, John Romita is not really doing his style yet. He's kind of aping Steve Ditko a little bit, you know. So he's doing like a hybrid of his own and hybrid of Steve Ditko. So what's going on? The Green Goblin has been pestering poor Pete for a couple of issues, for a couple of years now. He's been showing up on and off, and it's always been like a mystery. And Stan and Steve didn't know who he was. They just threw him in. They said, we'll figure it out later. We'll figure it out later. And it was like, who is the Green Goblin? Who? And then when they revealed that it was going to be Norman Osborn, which was Harry Osborn's father, and Harry was Pete's college roommate, Steve was like, that makes no sense. In a city of millions and millions of people, everybody Spider-Man fights happens to be connected to Peter Parker. And Steve was like, Stan was like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't make sense. But comic books don't make sense. This is great comic book storytelling. This is soap opera storytelling. In a real world, you would be absolutely right. And as much as I love Stan, I mean, as much as, well, I do love Stan, as much as I love Steve, this particular issue, I gotta agree with Stan. That's just good comic book drama. You know, that's, so there you go. Romita purposely tried to draw Spider-Man like Ditko because he thought Ditko would come back. Yeah. Nobody thought, he thought this was just a temporary gig. You know, a temporary gig that lasted a long time. Marcus, how long did probably Stan Goldberg? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so let's go check out the ads over here. Treasure chest of fun. So now we have. See, look at that. That's definitely a Ditko-esque face, as opposed to the like that. That to me is a Romita face. You know, I forget who it was. They asked Romita. It was probably Martin Goldman, Stan's uncle. Could you draw ugly people the way Ditko can? You know, and Romita draws. He draws Pete classically handsome over here. So look at this. We got the 6-panel grid. You know, I just love when they take the mask off and it has like a limp face, and they're purposely obscuring the Green Goblin's face. Look at the background colors over here. You know, he's taking the mask off. He's, you know, getting in the fridge to get himself up. It's not really a fridge, but you know what I'm saying. And he puts the mask back on. They're teasing us. You know, pumpkin bombs. Green Goblin's just such a classic look over here. Just, I love this grid. And then on the bottom, we got extra panels. You know, what are you doing in the little bit of Clark Kent over here? Look at this panel. That is such a Ditko-esque panel. It's not quite disco because it's not quite disco. It's not quite Ditko because if you ask me if it was Ditko, I think the perspective would be a little bit bizarre, a little weird. I think Romita is playing it safe, like Marcus said. He thought Steve was going to come back, and then he was all. Look at this, Dr. Broomwell. And again, you can see I'm being very cautious as I turn the pages. Romita had a hand drawing, inking, and plotting up until Ross Andrew took over, even if he didn't draw the comic. Yes, yes. Later on, I don't think quite. I forget exactly what year and when, but Romita got a full-time position as art director of all of Marvel. So he was a salaried person with you know, benefits and all that stuff rather than just a freelancer. And there's so many great stories of people coming in and working, and then Romita would sit down with them and you know, coach them and mentor them, and they're like, wow, I'm working for Marvel for like 3 days and I'm sitting with John Romita Sr. and he's coaching me. But he, you know, he took it seriously. Commit to the bit, you know what I mean? Commit to the bit. So here he is going to the doctor. He's getting his blood tests. You know, I'm just laughing at this. How's Aunt May? Even though she regained some of her strength, she's an old woman, Pete, and the operation has weakened her a great deal. So I just wanted to warn you, in her present condition, she must have no sudden shocks, no excitement. Any additional setback might prove fatal. Dun, dun, dun. And we all know that's bull. That's BS. That's poo-poo. That's caca. Because Aunt May, every other issue, she's throwing off buildings, buried alive, you know, marrying supervillains, turning into Herald of Galactus, and nothing's killing her. You know, she met the devil. Nothing's killing that lady. So this whole Aunt May is frail. It's the opposite. Aunt May is got to be like the most high constitution character of all time. So he's like, you know, don't let her get worried and blah, 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 blah. And I love this. I've been so wrapped up in myself lately, I'd almost forgotten how near to death Aunt May had been. Again, BS. Now, more than ever, I must see that she never learns my secret identity. It would worry her into the grave. Then I love the nurse over here. It must be wonderful to be his age. No troubles, no responsibilities, none of the worries of us older folk. Oh, lady, if you only knew. I sure don't feel like much classes today, but I can't afford to miss a session. I've had too many absences. Yeah, you know, Pete is just a worry wart. He's just, you know, that's. I love Peter Parker. I love Peter Parker. He just worries. He carries the responsibilities of the world on his shoulders. He's a good guy, and guilt and shame is like his motivation, which is, you know, unique. You know, I still say that like Batman's motivation is fear. He was so scared that he's a control freak because he doesn't want to be scared again. I don't know if that's controversial or if I made that up or if I read that someplace. Superman's motivation is like love and fatherly protection, and Peter Parker's motivation is shame, guilt. He's got that Protestant. The stereotypical is the Roman Catholic guilt, but he's that I don't know the religious leanings of Steve. Well, Steve Ditko. I think Steve Ditko was a Catholic, and Stan was Jewish, and there you go. You got the two guilt motivated religions, And like this, we got Black Bolt over here, and the Fantastic. Normally I'd turn this sideways, but you guys can understand the less I'm handling this comic, the better. We got some early Thor over here. What's that? Yeah, he's meeting Pluto. And Marvel collector's items. These Marvel collector's items classics were my friend Scott, who lived like two houses to the left if you leave my front door. And for some reason, he had a stack of those. And they were some of my earliest exposures to these old Jack Kirby comics. So these were reprints. Remember, in the days before the newsstand, it was hard to get back issues. So Marvel had a booming reprint catalog. They had Marvel Collector's Item Classics. They had World's Greatest Comics. They had Marvel Tales, and there was another one that's blanking. But they would reprint comics, and they sold well. They sold well up until I'm going to say like maybe the late 80s, because and then once the direct market kind of opened, I don't think it's a coincidence that the reprint titles started to fail, because people were buying the reprints. And in the 80s, it wasn't that expensive. Again, I'm going to say 84. I saw Amazing Fantasy 15 for $60. Now, I was a kid. $60 might as well have been a million, but an adult with a job could have bought Amazing Fantasy 15 for $60. There was Amazing Fantasy 15, $60. Right next to it was Uncanny X-Men, $60, number one, and Fantastic Four. I think that was 120 or something like that. Remember, X-Men wasn't that super popular at that time. So let's see. I got some comment. Oh, Heroinberg. Hi, John. Amazing story. Romita Sr. I bought first Black Cat appearance when it came out, but that was Keith Pollard. I love Keith Pollard. I love Keith Pollard. I've been trying to pursue him. Is he still alive? I sent emails. I don't know if I sent emails to him. Yeah, he's still alive. Just got back from Phillipsburg Comic Con. What a paradise for comics. Oh, good. It's good to know that some of these Comic Cons are actually about comics. The New York Comic Con here in New York, it's cosplayers and movie stars, and I don't even think Marvel and DC had a forget about San Diego. I can't afford to fly out there and stay. Although my buddy is a cameraman, and he's always at San Diego Comic Con every year as a cameraman, and he says he can get me press passes and stuff like that. But I got to take off work, got to fly, and you know what? I'm just not that interested anymore, to be honest, in comic conventions. I'm starting to, now that I'm doing all this and I'm knowing people, and people like, hey, come on, let's all hang out. Maybe I'll start doing it again. I went to a free comic books day and got to hang out with Billy Tucci like last Saturday. It was like hanging out with Frank Sinatra. He's Atlas. Oh, he's got the world on his shoulder. Okay, I get it. Still recovering from the con. 10 hours of drive. 10 hours of driving. I love a long drive. Once I get outside of the 5 boroughs of New York, where it's stop and go and whatever, but just like a long straight drive, road trip, plug on some music, get a buddy in the car, hang out and talk, listen to music. I love that. I haven't done that in a long time. I used to, when I was a teacher, I'd have the summers off before I met my wife. My friends were all working, so I had the summers off. What do? I would take a stack of comics and just drive. I drive to North Dakota, I'd drive to California, drive to whatever, Seattle. I'd just pull over and sleep in my car, put the seat down, blanket in the pillow, wake up, drive here. I never saw this. I kind of miss doing that, but I get furloughs for work, and last furlough I had the hernia surgery, so I wasn't going to go driving anywhere, but I don't know, maybe I'll start doing that again. I just like being home now. Marvel reprinted the early stories almost immediately. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, so let's get back to this. So Aunt May's weak. She's gonna die, and we all know that's BS. It's like the one of those comic book lies. So here we got Peter Parker just moping. I never thought of this before, but she's my only relative. She's all the family I have. And I love, there's Peter Parker now. So this is Liz Allen. That's Flash. And I don't know who that is. So there's Peter Parker now. Remember, Flash, we all decided to act friendly to him. Hi, Pete. How's it going? Anything of Harry Osborn? Looks to me like you're wasting your time. Parker's not buying. So poor Pete. They reach out. They're trying to be nice to him. And at this particular juncture, Pete actually has a reason to be mopey and a reason not to pay attention. You know, it's Mother's Day. Think about your mother on the verge of death. Well, don't think about that. Don't think about that. Let's face it. He's the original cold shoulder kid. If he wants to be a loner, let him. What? I don't understand. Sometimes he's friendly as a puppy. I knew it was a mistake. That guy's like nowhere. He's like nowhere. Let's get out of here. And there's Harry with this crazy hair. I mean, God, Harry Osborn has the most mysterious hair in all of comic books, if you ask me. If anything wrong, and here's Norman. Anything wrong, Dad? You know, blah, blah, blah. And there's nothing wrong. Why do you want me to give you a deliver speech? I don't mean to get angry. So he's just, it cost me a fortune to keep you in college. And all you think about is, why don't you think about your studies, Pete? Blah, 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 blah. You know, and everything I say seems to displease him. If only I knew what was wrong. So poor Harry, you know, that's his dad. He looks up to his dad. He wants to. There he is now. Hey, Harry, all bets are off about Puny Parker. He's as hopeless as ever. What's gotten into him? Holy smokes. Now he's making it with the I don't know you from Adam bit. So, you know, Harry's got problems. Pete's got problems. And to their credit, Flash and Liz are reaching out to try to do the right thing. You know, because I don't know what Parker's got, but we better get him in quarantine. It's turning into an epidemic, you know. And Liz, you know, she's starting to realize that there's problems. So now we got the two sad luck guys over here. You know, you okay? You know, what's going on? It's when is your business? Well, oh, forget. I didn't mean to snap it. So now we got the two grumpy Gusses commiserating together, and you know, and I like this. Liz Allen, bless her heart, is noticing. She's paying attention. She's seeing that Pete and Norman are both hurting. Pete's reaching out, trying to help. You know, and again, all the girls love Pete. If Peter Parker becomes one of our crowd, it'll be just wonderful for me. Peter and Harry having a real heart-to-heart. Now I've seen everything. And there's Flash. Peter's a funny guy. After all the needling he's taken from him, he's there talking to Harry like a Dutch uncle. A Dutch uncle. Anybody hear that? You're talking to me like a Dutch uncle. I don't even want to speculate. He's either a real weak sister or more of a man than we ever thought he would be. So Flash is starting to turn around. And then, you know, here they are. They're all in class. And Pete is now, I was about to say swimming away. Pete's swimming away. Fish man. And, you know, he's using his senses. And I love this. He's fighting like a Ditko comic. You know, Ditko would have those amazing off-balance poses of Pete fighting everybody, you know, boom, you know, no backgrounds over here. We don't need no backgrounds. We got a setup. You know, we see over here, they're on this, like the roof of a building. We see over here, we got a line, boom. Now our brain is just focusing in on what needs to be done. The action. Pete is, I love this. He's not omnipotent. There's a little bit of a challenge. They grab him, but he's throwing him around. Whim. I'll turn the page. That is, to me, again, this is Romita hedging his bets that Ditko will come back, and Romita's being a trooper here. He took Steve's seat, but he knows in his mind he thinks he's just temporary. You know, Of course, Steve's coming back. Why wouldn't he come back? This is the best gig in all of comics, and it literally was the best gig in all of comics. So Romita's like, this is my chance to show off my stuff, but at the same time, I'm holding it for a friend, and I don't want to devalue the comic. So he's holding up continuity of art as best as he can. He's being professional about it. He's not like, making it bad because he thinks it's just temporary. I'll just phone it in. This isn't my gig, blah, blah, blah. He's a professional. But tap, the think, crack, so now he's just fighting thugs. We got baseball cards over here, and let's address the credits. Peter Parker treats his friends poorly. Absolutely, Dale. He takes his friends for granted. Well, I was about to say he takes his friends for granted, but I don't think he takes his friends for granted. He just wallows in his misery like a pig in mud. Like he it's, what is that word? Myopic? Is that the word where he's just focusing on his problems? And he does have problems. He does have responsibilities, and he can't share. He can't let anybody know. He can't let people know that he's Spider-Man. Because he could very easily just say, guys, I'm freaking Spider-Man. Do you understand what I got? Don't keep, I don't mean to be rude, but I can't. Because letting them know that he's Spider-Man, Dr. Octopus's Green Goblin is going to put them in. So, you know what I mean? So he treats his friends poorly, but we understand why. We understand why, Yeah, Tony Dimes got engaged at San Diego Comic-Con dressed as Captain Kirk. And his wife was dressed as Spock, which in a weird way is weird. But in a fan way, it's cool. And in a way to tell your kids, it's absolutely freaking amazingly cool to hey, you kids are all dressed up one day and like, Mommy, how'd you guys get married? Well, when a Starfleet officer loves another Starfleet officer, they set phasers on love. So there you go. Romita has said that he would have been happy staying on Daredevil. Yeah. And if I remember correctly, the issue that Romita was drawing Daredevil, and I think they had a Daredevil meets Spider-Man story to test Romita on Spider-Man. I ordered the Stratomatic baseball board game in the 70s. Great game. Yeah, okay. I wasn't going to talk about this, but now I will, because I'm also a board game freak. This is a legendary game. Played 1960s. What it is a it's a board game that you could, so you get these cards. Correct, Marcus, you're the only person I know in real life that actually bought this game. But you bought the game, and it was like half role playing game, half board game, and it was the precursor to fantasy baseball, fantasy football, and all that stuff. So you bought the game, and it gave you rules and stats of all the players, and you created your own team and used rules of their stats and played baseball. And every year you could get updates and to the and then you could trade them away. So I don't know, Peter Parker on the Yankees, and then you swap them out with Tony Stark on the Mets, and so it's like it's fantasy baseball before fantasy baseball. It really was. I never played it. I'm not into baseball. The only baseball game that I have that I really like is called Bottom of the Ninth. It's really fun, really cool game. It's a 2-player only game. It's a lot of, that's why I don't get to play it that much. But I got to break it out now that it made me think of it. So now we got typical Peter Parker Spider-Man shenanigans. He's beating up the thugs over here. I love this lady covering the kid's face. This guy is just, look, Spider-Man lured them away from the elevator. Now we can all get at it. It's almost like he's posing for Instagram over here. Oh, wow. I just thought of a great story. Oh, my God. What about the Patriarch is in battle, but it's told from an influencer's perspective who's just taking pictures and causing problems, putting himself in danger to get in a superhero fight. That is I just thought of that right now. Bam! All right, so now Spider-Man. I love this. I just love this storytelling. Guys, I'm not reading all of this words. Look at all this dialogue. Peter's fighting over here. People, issuing out. He shoots the webs up here, uses the tension of the webs to just boom, kick these guys rock, does a flip, and now his spider sense, you see the lines, his spider sense is telling him that this jerk behind him has. I love this. Has anybody ever seen a sap in real life? But in comic books, everybody's got a sap. It's like a net filled with like lead ball bearings. Boom, and it's like magic. All you got to do is like tap somebody in the head and they're unconscious, like chloroform. You put a little bit of you dab some chloroform. It's meanwhile, what is chloroform? Like is it ammonia and bleach mixed together? It freaking burns. You know what I mean? Yeah. And this guy says, and then Biak beating the crap out of this. Just a lot of action. And what is he doing? If you read the dialogue, he's letting it all out. He's complaining, not complaining. Complaining to me is when you're complaining is when you're saying stuff and not doing anything about it. That's complaining. Like if you're active, this is my personal view. If you're actively doing something to make changes, like if you're dieting because you're fat and you're dieting, you're allowed to talk about, oh man, I'm so hungry, blah, blah. But if you're just sitting in the chair, I'm so fat. That's just complaining, But what is he doing? He's blowing off steam. He's like, amazing, so tight. He's beating the crap out of these people. And look, what does this guy have up? That blasted spider. What's he throw? A water balloon at? Oh, he throws perfume at him, or something like that. And we got the Green Goblin just over here watching the whole fight. Okay, I'll turn the page and address the comments. So I ordered the strength. Oh, okay, we talked about that. Exactly. You rolled dice and looked at the cards. The player got hit. Yeah, it was Dungeons and Dragons baseball. That could have been a funny yet high tension scene with the influencer acting goofy, but the situation is serious. Yeah. Imagine trying not to devalue the franchise you're working on. Go figure, right? Go figure. Again, we're talking about professionals who were in it for life. John Romita was in it for life. Steve Ditko was in it for life. He left Spider-Man, but what did he go right to Charlton, right? He was a comic book guy for life. But Steve Ditko didn't devalue Spider-Man. He just left. He didn't turn Spider-Man into a joke franchise. Oh, so they hit him with the Green Goblin tricked us. He's got something. So these guys were hired by the Green Goblin to fight Spider-Man. And Green Goblin is observing this. So he's just beating the crap out of them all. Pop, just punching them. I love that face right here. This to me, I will pick it up to show. Look at that. That is the ultimate Spider-Man face in my mind. And again, he's got these little stars. Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby had the Kirby crackle, and if you ask me, Ditko had these stars, and he takes pictures of them because got to pay those bills. And the cops come out, taking out Spider-Man because that's the trope at this point. Spider-Man is a best. They don't understand if he's a good guy or a bad guy. Because think about it. Think about this from the police perspective. Okay. You hear that there's a fight going on. The cops get called because there's a fight going on in the observation deck of the Empire State Building. They go up there. There's a guy in a mask just beating these people up. They didn't see this cause. They didn't, they're not bank robbing. They're not holding hostages. They don't have guns and knives. They just see a masked guy beating up a bunch of guys. And what are the guys going to say? We were just minding our own business over here in this jerk, So, it's easy to say like, oh, the cops, don't you understand, Spider? We are privy to information that the man on the street doesn't know. And I always love when they do this. This was something I always appreciated, that they showed like the Fantastic Four. They had the magic science costumes that they could put under their clothes, and they were made of like magic material that didn't hinder them, whatever. But he sewed his own costume. At this point, he didn't have an unstable molecule costume. He had a regular costume. He had to put his regular clothes someplace. Sometimes he would complain that it was itchy while he was wearing other clothes. You know, a button would pop off and he was like walking around like this because he didn't want anybody to see the Spider-Man emblem. You know, this is before Underoos. So I love this. And now Peter, he's observing him. So what that gas do? It nullified Peter's spider sense. So the Green Goblin did, you know, remember, he's a scientist. And remember, if you're in a comic book and you're a scientist, you are every type of scientist. You know, you're a meteorologist, you're a climatologist, you're a physicist, you're a molecular biochemist. You know, you're every type. Like Henry Pym is supposed to be is it entomologist or etymologist? I forget which one studies insects. Entomologist. He's an insect guy. And then he creates a magic potion that shrinks him and then creates robots, because that's what entomologists do. Reed Richards, I'll buy that he could do anything. That's his gig. You know, he's the smartest. You know, and Peter Parker's a scientist, so he can create spider webs and web shooters and, you know, and all of this cool stuff. So that's the same with Norman Osborn. Norman Osborn could he figured out Spider-Man has spider sense. He hired the goons for the express purposes of hitting them with that magic potion that nullified his spider sense. So Peter would normally know if he was being observed and like, okay, it's safe to change into the costume. So now Norman Osborn knows who he is. He knows who he is. Yeah, Green Goblin is a bit of a scientist himself, right? Isn't that the meme? A bit omniscience. Yeah, it's funny because there is a character in a future issue of Heroic Tales who he introduces himself, and he's awkward. He's not a bad guy. He's awkward, and he introduces himself. He says, "Don't you have a degree in science?" You know, and he's, "Yes, I have many advanced degrees in science." You know, and somebody says, "You're a mad scientist?" And I didn't think of it. Yes, I'm a mad scientist. Many advanced degrees. So he's a mad scientist. And then I have another character that somebody calls him a mad scientist, but he's a good guy, and he's corny. He's supposed to be corny, and he says, "No, I'm not a mad scientist. I'm a glad scientist." I'm debating whether or not to keep that line in or not. Probably not. Jeff Hatcher is here. Wow, I was just talking about you, Jeff. I was just talking about you, I think, Friday night. In your opinion, who's the best artist to draw Spider-Man? Oh, whatever I pick, people are going to get mad. But to me, it was John Romita Sr. He is my Spider-Man artist. He's the guy that when I close my eyes, I think of Spider-Man. Now, I understand if people, that's old-fashioned or whatever, so I'm not going to get mad at anybody. That was just a quick gut reaction. I mean, I recognize Todd McFarlane. I don't like Eric Larson. I liked his early Savage Dragon stuff when he was aping John Byrne, but whatever. But so many good ones. Todd Nauk, is that how you say his name? Russ Andrew is not my favorite. I like Russ Andrew, but he's nowhere near the top as far as I'm concerned. Russ Andrew to me is like the George Harrison. You know, George Harrison is not the flashiest guitarist, but he's like the line that everything else is measured by. Jack Kirby is one of the worst Spider-Man artists. That's one of the characters that Jack Kirby just could not draw well. But there you go. John Romita Sr. As much as I love Ditko, you know, you always remember your first girlfriend. You always remember your first car. And John Romita Sr. was my first on Spider-Man. Just like, believe it or not, George Perez was my first on Fantastic Four, inked by Joe Sinnott. So I'm starting to realize that it's more Sinnott who's my favorite Fantastic Four artist, because Sinnott just seems to make everything his own. So I don't know. I hope that answers your question. And Jeff, good to see you. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. You and War Duke, I kind of worry about, you know, because when I don't see you for a long time, you can't help. You know, I met you. You've been on my channel. I've seen your face. We talked. So don't be a stranger. Come back on. I enjoyed talking with you. Where am I? So he's following Peter Parker around. Peter Parker in the classic yellow shirt. he's thinking about all the stuff. He's worrying about Professor Strom and those deadly robots, grit, selling grit, and starting your own electrical business. And here he is talking with Ned Leeds. Yeah, there's no wrong answer. So here you go. We got 25 people watching. Everybody, what is your favorite Spider-Man artist? That's a good topic of discussion. And again, this is the kind of drama that I like. If you want to fight Ditko versus Todd McFarlane, that's the kind of comic book fights I like. I don't want to. Less said the better. But here Gil Kane. Yeah, Gil Kane. Gil Kane to me was a lot better on a like less superhero-y stuff, if that makes sense. Like I really like his Green Lantern and everything like that, but like I really like Gil Kane when he did like Sword and Sorcery and sci-fi more than his superhero stuff. And like Gene Colan, as much as Gene Colan is awesome, I love when Gene Colan did like Tomb of Dracula, and horror stuff. He was just born to do that kind of stuff. Joe Sinnott inked Rich Buckler on a cover of Fantastic Worlds #2 with my characters on. Oh, cool. That is awesome. Put an image of that on Twitter. Because I can't log into Twitter without closing down everything. Friends was the artist when I started getting Spider. What a good artist. Trying to get him on my channel. I've been messaging him. If anybody knows him, tell him to accept my messages. So now we got Ned Leeds. And who's Ned Leeds? He's a reporter. He ends up marrying Betty Brant. And then does he become the Hobgoblin? Ned Leeds, good looking, handsome fella. So we got Liz Allen, where's my thumb? There we go. We got Liz Allen, who's interested in Pete. We got Betty Brant, who's interested in Pete. Gwen Stacy, who's interested in Pete. Mary Jane, who's interested in Pete. And there's so many more. My favorite is Deborah Whitman. I don't know why. There's something about Deborah Whitman. I guess because when Spectacular Spider-Man came out, I got it. I started it at issue 1. So that was always my Spider-Man, if that makes sense. Like when I started collecting Amazing Spider-Man, I think it was already in like the 140s or something like that. So like I resigned myself that I was never going to get the older issues, but Spectacular Spider-Man, I got it on the ground. So that became mine. So Deborah Whitman was a love interest around Spectacular Spider-Man, like the 30s. And so, I don't know, I just fell in love with her big glasses. She was into punk rock, that's something about her. She was like nerdy but sexy. Oh, man. Whereas Mary Jane is just like overtly sexy. This Deborah Whitman was just like nerdy sexy. Nerdy sexy is always better. Say we got Ned Leeds. He's just a Parker. And J. Jonah Jameson is Stan Lee goofing on himself. Shows you that he has a sense of humor, that he knows that he could be a tyrant. And here we go. Jameson is chiseling Pete out of money, but Pete's glad to take it. That always bothered me. And here he is, the Green Goblin, just being a creep. And the Spider Sense is still nullified. And now here he goes. Ramita. Green Goblin follows Peter home. How scary is that? I go back and forth between Ditka and Ramita as my favorite. Understandable. Alex Savick is very underrated. Yeah, I'll also buy that. Two true statements. I love this. Look at the panic. Look at the panic in his face. He knows who I am. He actually knows how. I got to defeat him somehow, but I can't let him escape with my secret identity. I just remembered it's more than my problem. Aunt May. Dr. Bromwell said any sudden shock could be fatal to her. So what if she learns about this? Yes. So now look at problems upon problems upon problems. So Pete's got a crazy villain like the Green Goblin. Green Goblin figures out who he is. He doesn't have his web shooters on, and Aunt May can't know about this. And what does he do? How is he going to stop the Green Goblin from knowing who he is? Kill him? Problems within problems within problems. It's awesome. This is awesome. Real stakes. This is real stakes, you know. And then, you know, I love this engine gas just starts choking them. Just awesome. Just awesome. And then we got all of this nonsense. Play guitar in 7 days. Be a magician. That's another character I've been toying with. I want to make like a superhero, but he's like an incompetent superhero. Means well, but he's troublemaker, kind of like a Incrediboy. But and what he did was he got all of the gimmicks from all of the comics, and then like amped them up and became a superhero. So like he's got like X-ray specs. He's got a real joy buzzer. You know, he's got all that stuff. And the Charles Atlas gauntlets. So he really does have strength. He learned karate. You know, Gizmo Boy or something like that. So Aunt May, what's going on? You know, she looks out the window. There's just too much smoke. If Peter breathes in that smoke, he's so frail. You know, his face will explode. And then Peter's hiding. Then again, this is just like, you know, Green Goblin accidentally prevented Aunt May from learning this because of the smoke blocked Aunt May, and because he doesn't have spider sense. And I love these little blasts. He does that Ditko sparkle. Fighting around, he also throws batarangs, but he calls them what, like goblin? I forget what he calls them. But look at this panel over here. Again, you could see Romita is a little hamstrung by splitting the difference between his style and his Ditko inspired style. Zizak, you know, he's throwing. What's he throwing? Goblins. He's my newest goblin surprise. What is he? Little like exploding ghost goop things. You know, an asphyxiation grenade. To whoop. You know, he's beating the crap out of Pete, and now he ties him up and he flies away. You know, he's tied to a chair. Look at the iron chair. And it goes, time, you know, it's working. He goes, all right, you might as well finish me off now, because if you delay, I'll end up beating you as I did again in the past. You'll never beat me. Those were just accidents. You hear me? Accidents. You can't rush me now. It's working. His insane pride won't let him do. Now, before you, I have one final surprise for you. And he takes off the mask. Take a look, Spider-Man. It's the last face you'll ever see. Norman Osborn. Of course, you're my own classmate. You're related to my own class. Harry Osborn's father. Next issue, Spidey saves the day. The Hypno Coin. You're going to hypnotize chicks. I mean, what else are you going to do with chicks, right? Just hypnotize. We can't ask them out. That ain't going to work. We like comic books. They're just going to laugh in our face. The only other choice is to hypnotize them, guys. You know, that's how I got married. We got Fantastic 453, The Origin of the Black Panther. I did a showcase on that. Avengers 30. X-Men 22. Daredevil 180. The Thunder God battles Pluto's legions. And we got Tales Iron Man battles Submariner while Captain America closes in on the Red Skull. Marvel Tales. I thought that said Marvel Tales #1. Look at these t-shirts. Is there a letters page? Guys, I've been showing off the letters page in Starlin, and so many like legit comic creators are in the letters page. That's one of the reasons. Like when you CGC a comic, you don't see this. You don't see the letters page. You don't get to see Paul Dini as a 12-year-old writing to Jim Starlin or Jerry Conway and all these people. So let's see. Is there any cool names? Nobody I recognize so far. Nobody I recognize. John Cahill, Mike McBride, Annie Kong. But look at this. We got Melanie Skinner, and we got Annie Kong. See, women comic book fans, but according to modern tourists in the industry, women weren't allowed to be in comic books back then. So there we go. This is Amazing Spider-Man 39, the reveal of Norman Osborn as Green Goblin. Again, I don't think that was the reason Ditko left. I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back. There was just a whole bunch. I think a lot of it had to do with just the philosophies that Ditko was into, and Stan wanted to tamper down Steve's entire vision for the comic, because he left and created, the Question, and that exploded. Then Mr. A, so there you go. What do you guys think? Will Gizmo Boy grow bitter and villainous, or will he have his moment to shine and find? I don't know. I'm just playing with an idea. I've got about, I think, 20 issues of Heroic Tales planned, and various forms of scripts. But now that I'm doing the flip book, I have more. I have, I had only I had about 5 Patriarch stories. But now that I'm doing the flip book, the Patriarch is going to be there. So I got room to add more Patriarch stories. So, I have the other characters, the rotated cast. So Patriarch on one side, the other side will be a different superhero. Originally, Heroic Tales was going to be an anthology. Every issue was going to have a different hero, but I think that's not a good idea. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that's not a good idea. We're going to have a flagship character, and then sometimes it'll be a full issue because the Patriarch will be interacting with the other character. So there you go. At 12 o'clock, I'm going to be doing a pre-recorded interview with World at War Comics. He'll edit that and put that up when he can. So any questions? Anybody want to say anything? I probably have about 10 minutes before I have to stop. But anybody want to say anything? Anybody want to bring anything up? Anybody want to comment? Yeah, what a comic. Yeah, this is a great comic. Pretty much if you took all the comics from the 60s and 70s and 80s and just put them in a baseball field or whatever, a stadium, and just put them on the ground, and like you flew over on a jetpack and you dropped the ball, it would land on a great comic. How's that? That's an awkward explanation. Do you think Steve didn't like who the real reveal was, or the fact that the reveal happened? No, the reveal was going to happen. The reveal was going to happen in this issue. Steve wanted it to be a stranger, because he's saying, logically, how would in the city of millions and millions of people, how many people live in New York City at this time? Everybody that is involved with Spider-Man, coincidentally, is involved with Peter Parker. And Stan said, yeah, you're absolutely right. Odds are this should be a stranger. But in comic book land, it makes more sense and drama-wise to have it related. That's the way soap operas work. That's the way comic books work. And comic books are soap operas, same format. So again, I'm giving it to Stan on this one. He's absolutely right that this illogical, as far as the real world, shouldn't make sense in the real world, but it makes sense in Marvel world. Just like getting bitten by a radioactive spider should give you cancer, shouldn't give you spider powers, So, but I think that was just the excuse or the final straw, or lit the fuse on the dynamite. But we'll never know. If John Romita Sr. doesn't know, and Stan Lee doesn't know, then nobody knows. So any concrete reason why anybody tells you, unless one of Steve Ditko's relatives knows because he told them, I'm just going to say that it's as if it's what Romita told me. He doesn't know. He thinks it's just a whole bunch of little things that he felt. And Ayn Rand in what is it, Atlas Shrugged or The Fountainhead? I forget which book. The guy, I can't remember the name of the character, but the architect. He designed a building, and they changed his building, so he blew up the building. So Steve blew up his career rather than have his work tampered with in any way. There you go. Do you think Steve didn't like who the Oh, I already said that. Okay, so there you go. Anybody want to say anything? All right, I guess I'll be shutting it down. Thanks a lot. I got a lot of comic book related stuff to do today. I got to finish a script. I got to work on my playlists because I realized just putting everything as live isn't helping. The live is too big now, too much of a category. So I'll stop making subcategories for playlists. And I wonder if I could make like Marcus, if you could come in and help with the playlists and stuff like that. You know, I don't know if there's a feature that will let somebody do that. But anyway. Also, these guys felt Mark Goodman was going back on his word and cost Ditko and Kirby a lot of money. Oh, you'd have to explain that. I don't know the details on that, but I wouldn't put it past. I wouldn't put it past them. There are plenty of minor villains who don't have a connection to Parker, could be justified in some continuities by having Oscorp being. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they do that later on in the movies, but you know, they. I don't even think Norman Osborn was a big character until like a few issues before this. I forget. My first and oldest issue, not my first, my oldest issue of Amazing Spider-Man is 25. So I have 25 on, and one of these days I'll get 20. I'll get 24, 23, and I'll start working my way backwards. There you go. Anything else? Anybody say anything? Bueller. We got 23 people. All right. We're gonna happy Mother's Day. Treat all the mothers in your life, whether it be your wife or your actual mother or your sisters or anybody. Treat them well today. Buy them some French fries. They all love French fries. All right. Bye-bye.